Hello! Once again, people watching my videos. My name is Super Gaming. Another creepypasta. And, got some bad news, guys. My channel will probably be mostly creepypastas from now on. Because, my computer has gotten a virus thanks to my friend, making me download, he made me download Team Fortress 2. I was gonna make a video or two on that. And my computer crashed, and it got to go a whole thing. So, until I can save up enough money and get my own computer, it'll be just creepypastas. I'll try to do as many creepypastas, at least 1 or 2 a day. But other than that, that's all it's gonna be. So this one is called Gateway of the Mind. It was one of them for like the new people going to creepypasta. It's like, read this one. It's a good one. Hopefully it's not too long because I don't want to take that long to upload. But let's go. In 1983, a team of deeply precise scientists conducted a radical experiment in an undisclosed facility. The scientists had theorized that a human without access to any senses or ways to perceive stimuli would be able to perceive the presence of God. They believed that the 5 senses clouded our awareness of eternity, and without them, a human could actually establish contact with God by thought. An elderly man who claimed to have nothing left to live for was the only test subject to volunteer. To purge him of all his senses, scientists performed a complex operation in which every sensory nerve connected to the brain was surgically served. Although the test subject retained full muscular function, he could not see, hear, taste, smell, or feel. With no possible way to communicate with or even sense the outside world, he was alone with his thoughts. Scientists monitored him as he spoke aloud in his state of mind and jumbled slurred sentences that even he couldn't understand, or that he couldn't even hear. Sorry. After 4 days, the man claimed to be hearing hushed and unintelligible voices in his head. Assuming it was onset of psychosis, scientists paid little attention to the man's concerns. 2 days later, the man cried that he could hear his dead wife speaking with him, and even more, he could communicate back. The scientists were intrigued but not convinced until the subject started naming dead relatives of the scientists. He repeated personal information to the scientists that only their dead spouses and parents would have known. At this point, a sizable portion of the scientists left the study. After a week of conserving with the deceased through his thoughts, the subject became distressed, saying the voices were overwhelming. In every waking moment, his consciousness was bombarded by hundreds of voices that refused to leave him alone. He frequently threw himself against the wall, trying to elicit a pain response. He begged the scientist for a sedative so he could escape the voices by sleeping. This tactic worked for 3 days until he started having severe night terrors. The subject repeatedly said that he could see and hear the deceased in his dream. Only a day later, the subject began to scream and claw at his non-functional eyes, hoping to sense something to the physical world. The hysterical subject said the voices of the dead were now deafening and hostile, speaking of poop and the end of the world. At one point, he yelled, "No heaven, no forgiveness." For 5 hours straight, he continually begged to be killed, but the scientists were convinced that he was too close to establishing contact with God. Sorry. After another day, the subject could no longer form coherent sentences. Seemingly mad, he started to bite off chunks of flesh from his arms. The scientist rushed into the test chamber and restrained him to a table so he could not kill himself. Ugh. After a few hours of being tied down, the subject halted his struggling and screaming. He stared blankly at the ceiling as teardrops silently streaked across his face. For 2 weeks, the subject had to be manually rehydrated due to his constant crying. Eventually, he turned his head in despite his blindness, made focused eye contact with the scientist for the first time in the study. He whispered, "I have spoken with God, and he has abandoned us," and his vital signs stopped. There was no apparent cause of death. Follow-up study 2000, Dr. G.F. Department of Neurology Hospital name withheld, San Francisco, California. Recent study of a degenerative disease which targets the motor function and cognitive decline often leads to hallucinations of the deceased. The death of targeted cells and chemicals in the brain by this disease leads to a loss of smell, among other senses. senses. The cause of the disease is unknown. Hallucinations present in 39.8% of the patients, falling into three categories: a sensation of a presence, a sideways passage, or illusions. Present in 25.5% of the patients, an isolated occurrence in 14.3. Formed visual hallucinations present in 22.2, isolated in 9.3%. And auditory hallucinations present in 9.7%, isolated in 2.2%. Continuing study in San Francisco, CA 2003 to present. Wow. That's kind of, strange. Second time this week, I've read a creepypasta of something like God abandoning the human race because we've done so much wrong. So I think that's going to be a new thing with creepypastas. Most of them that I read will probably have something to do with that. And it's gotta suck. That guy, he's obviously not alive today. And this research was conducted it did say 2003. And this happened all in a few weeks. I got that from this. There wasn't much, there wasn't any, I should say, grammar, punctuation errors. If you see something, then comment it or message me at it, and I'll add it in the beginning of a later video. This was a really good one. Oh, wait a second. 1983. Wow. It's kind of cool, though, how they did this. Yeah, there's not much else to say about this. It was really good, and I'm gonna give it a 9.5. This was a great creepypasta. I'll put it in the description if you guys want it. I try to always put the rating. And yeah, thank you all for watching. My name is Super Junk Gaming, and goodbye.